Microphone on, Graham, I'm told. And welcome to those watching us on YouTube, and I believe there's a link across from Facebook. Tonight is a special council meeting outside the normal council schedule of meetings, and therefore under the rules only the matter listed on the agenda can be considered. But before the formalities, I'll start by the opening prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power and the glory are yours now and forever. I'll move on to the recognition of the traditional landholders. I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting here today on the traditional land of the Baracalong people of the Gunai-Kurnai Nation, and I pay respect to their elders past and present. If there are other elders present, I'd also like to acknowledge them. I'd like to relax and sit down now, folks. We are live streaming. Ooh, feedback, Adam. Okay. We are live streaming tonight's meeting on YouTube with a link from Facebook. Council is currently live streaming of council meetings, and speakers here tonight will be included in the audio recording. You won't appear in the actual video. If you have any concerns with this, please speak to a council officer. They're located behind you. It's still humming and... Conditions of entry. All members of the community attending the council meeting are asked to behave in a courteous and respectful manner before, during and after the meeting, and respectively this includes no placards, posters or materials other than personal effects. In accordance with Local Law 1, the Chair may order and cause the removal of any person, including a councillor, who disrupts any meeting or fails to comply with the direction. And also in accordance with Local Law 1, a person must not operate audio tape or other recording equipment at any council meeting without first obtaining the consent of the council or the chair, as the case may be. Such consent may at any time during the course of such meeting be revoked by council or the chair, as the case may be. Move on to apologies for absence. Councillor Howe, the Deputy Mayor, and Steve Piacenti, the CEO, are apologies as they are away on a council delegation. Councillors, are there any declarations of interest? I don't think there are on this one. Right. I'll just go through for the benefit of the gallery. Each person who wishes to speak on the budget gets 3 minutes to do so, and then I'll ask you to remain at the lectern to give the councillors to ask you any questions they have. The purpose of this meeting is to hear your submissions, which will be the councillors will take into consideration along with the written submissions, and after hearing them tonight there'll be consideration given to what you say, what you've written, and councillors will make a decision at the ordinary council meeting on the 3rd of June 2019. So there will be no decisions taken tonight. This is just your opportunity to address the council. So we move on to speakers, councillors. We have 3 speakers, all on the draft budget. The first speaker is Andrew Livingston of the Trogan Football Club in regard to temporary change facilities. Andrew, come up to the lectern there. As it's been explained, you will be recorded, but you won't appear on our live video feed.
No worries. Firstly, on behalf of the Trogan Football Netball Club, I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of this proposal. In my 4 years of presidency at the Trogan Football Netball Club, this issue that's brought forward tonight has been pretty much the predominant issue that I've had to face with regards to complaints from not only within the club but also from visiting clubs, is the lack of facilities for our netball currently at our netball facility. The current sheds, they're quite old and antiquated, and as a major league through Gippsland They are undoubtedly the worst facilities in the major Gippsland League. Currently our players and our visiting players get changed in the open sheds which do face onto the court and to the spectators. We feel this is quite invasive of their privacy, and also it's not, it's obviously not an ideal situation. There's even times where some of our players have to duck behind the sheds to get changed, so it is a real problem. With the courts being so far away from the public toilets, which are located at the Teeters side of the ground, there is quite a distance for the girls to get changed on a Saturday. Currently, most of them get changed in our social club in the female toilets, which is approximately 150 to 170 metres away from the court. So you can imagine the logistics of that. Also with our officials, our umpires, who a lot of the time do one game after another. If they need to go to the toilet or something like that, they have to travel quite a distance or run across and to go to the toilets, and this also causes delays throughout the games. Under current Netball Victoria guidelines, these facilities don't meet standard, and they're quite below average, I would say, and particularly come finals time, our club has had to, with not only our finals but North Gippsland Football Netball League have finals there as well, and logistically we have to provide some toilets and change facilities for officials, particularly that come down, umpires and such from Melbourne and so forth. And this is at a cost to our club. I've gone back through our budgets and it's cost us in approximately maybe a couple of K over the last 4 years to provide these temporary facilities. We feel that, just on closing, I guess, we just feel that we are very appreciative of the current upgrade to the court that has been done, and also the lighting. And we just feel that as a Class A rating that the Traralgon Rec Reserve is within Latrobe City, we feel that some facilities which we are continuing to strive for, permanent facilities, but in the meantime we feel it's really, really important for our female athletes to have some temporary facilities in place. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Now, councillors, do you have any questions for Andrew? Councillor Gibson.
Thanks, Andrew. Any chance you'd have any photos?
We do. I don't have any on me, but
Can you flick them through?
I can certainly send some in. Yeah, I can get some photos of the current facilities and send them through for sure. Yep.
No worries. Thank you.
No worries.
Councillor Harriman.
Thanks, Andrew. Have you had complaints from other teams in the competition about the quality and standard of the facilities you've got there?
Yeah, constantly. Yeah, we do. Like that is predominantly the most, as like I said, as my term as president, that's been probably at the forefront of not only our club but across the league, and also North Gippsland Football Netball League as well. When they have their grand final there, we've had quite a bit of negative feedback with regards to our facilities.
Okay. Councillor Kanchi.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Andrew, Councillor Howe and I met with Judy Bahaj down there last year, and the big concern was that it was on the floodplain. What sort of methods do you think that you could have to get past having to build a brand new structure that has to go through that 1 in 100 year flood issue that we have?
Yep. So it's gone to the forget the name of it. Yeah, the Catchment Management Authority, and we've been. Well, I've been notified that we can build something permanent. It has to be 600 mil raised off the ground. We've done some temporary drawings, and we're in the process, I guess, of looking to get something permanent hopefully over the next year or two. So, yeah.
Okay. Councillors, any more questions? Councillor Law.
Thanks, Andrew. The cost that we've got here on this sheet of paper just doesn't seem right, like $20,000. It doesn't seem to be enough.
For the temporary facility,
It's just for the temp-
yeah. So we've gauged that off the lady who did a lot of the research for us from the club's point of view. We got some rough figures around that from when Morwell were getting their upgrades done. The cost of the facilities that was to have the temporary facilities in place.
Yep. So you just envisage this being like a 12-month stopgap until something, or a bit longer, or?
Yeah, I guess we'll keep pushing to get something permanent, but in the meantime, we just feel it's really inappropriate or not up to standard for our girls. And I've witnessed it firsthand that they have to shelter around each other and stuff like that to get changed, and we just don't feel that that's appropriate.
No worries.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay, any more questions, councillors? Councillor White?
So Andrew, first of all, having been in a similar kind of role in the past, I appreciate the fact that you're prepared to step up to the plate rather than step back to take on the role as chair, or as president of the club, and to try and make a difference and a positive difference for the Traralgon Football Netball Club. I suppose a couple of questions from me. One is in relation to the Traralgon Rec Reserve master plan. I believe there is one, and in that regard, so therefore there's a netball vision as well. And so what you're really trying to say to us, as I understand it, is that until something can be realised on that scale, that you're looking for some kind of temporary arrangement similar to that which was at Moore Rec Reserve before they got their new swanky setup down there. Is that right? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
And so that included toilet facilities down here, some kind of temporary toilets down here, didn't it? Not?
Yeah, there was a temporary toilet and a change for just a change room for the girls to get changed in. So that's exactly what we're looking for.
And so, the question I would ask, I guess, is that knowing some of the other clubs that are involved in creating and developing facilities for netball, that there's been the initiative of having a local contribution toward that. Have you got any comment about that from Traralgon Football Netball Club's point of view?
Look, we're not at this stage. I guess we're, we would certainly explore that option, most definitely. Like all clubs, we struggle along, so we're certainly. But that, look, we can certainly we're prepared to look at that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors, any more questions? If not, thank you very much, Andrew.
No worries, thank you.
Councillors, our next speaker is Graham O'Hara on behalf of the Latrobe City Farm Ratepayers Association. Graham thought he might take more than 3 minutes, but I've told him that's the maximum he's getting.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, fellow councillors and senior staff members. We do have a new secretary following up on being reciprocated too many times, so I apologise for that. Thank you anyway, and I'll get on with this submission for the farm rate differential. Our committee members thank Council for the opportunity to present this submission for the retention of our differential, and we acknowledge Council for their support in previous years. Some background information. Our farm rate differential has been in place in excess of 40 years. The Minister for Local Government is encouraging all regional councils to reduce the rate burden placed on farms by the use of the differential rate system Valuation of Land Act 1960. The NAV, which is net annual value of farmland, was legislated at 5% of the CIV, which is capital improved value of the said property. The NAV purported to represent the return of the property in a rent or lease situation. The rate of return on farmland does not return this 5% figure. Our committee members congratulate past councillors for recognising the inequity that does exist. Farmland rating. Farming is a land-based activity. As the farm business improves its productivity via the land value increases, lifting its assessable rate value. Our association supports council to maximise a municipal charge up to 20% of the total rate value. We view this charge as an equal contribution by all ratepayers. Comments of concern from members of our land on land valuation and rezoning. The past 3 years farm valuations have plateaued, irrespective of the crippling drought, and in some cases fallen due to the downturn in prices. For example, the dairy industry with the Murray-Goulburn debacle. The valuers don't seem to acknowledge this fact. The other really big concern for us is zoning changes requiring careful planning. Ratings should continue for farm zones 1 and 2, for example, agriculture, if it's changed to rural living, until such time as the owner submits a plan of subdivision within its rezoned category. The valuers are able to introduce a potential rate, which we see as a gross injustice. It renders the farm property unviable, and it should be rated at present use. Present use.
Would you like to pause there just for a moment, Graham? Councillor White, Councillor Harriman.
With your disposition, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Harriman, second to Councillor White for an extension of 3 minutes. Those in favour, take it as a...
Thank you.
Way to go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor. In conclusion, the farm rate differential is a tool provided by the Local Government Act to assist in the setting an equitable rate. Farm businesses are logistically low users of council rate services, but they contribute substantially to both the Latrobe City's economy and its rate revenue. Agriculture production within Latrobe City is a large contributor for the growing Gippsland food bowl. But, as it says here, we're in the grip of a 2-year drought, which is having a marked effect on our productivity. Just, if I could whip back, Mr Mayor, to the zoning change. If a farm is zoned, the zoning's farmland, and it's rezoned to rural residential, which is introducing 5 and 10 acre blocks, or maybe straight to residential, that farmer, if he's continuing to farm and hasn't any intention of even though he's been rezoned, he should have that right to keep farming if he sees fit. He's being knocked out with the potential rate, which is going to be rated at the residential price, which it's a total injustice. He should be rated at his present use. Should not ever be changed until such time as a plan for subdivision, or he's changing his attitude and he's going to sell on. We really do need you councillors to represent us strongly on that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Graham. If you'd like to hang on a second, we'll see if there are any questions for you. Questions, councillors? Councillor White.
So, Graham, I am interested to hear your comments toward the end there in regard to the rezoning of land and that regard, and particularly to rural residential or to residential. And so I guess that I'm just trying to perhaps share with you that the council probably faces a little bit of a dilemma in that regard, because one of the things that council is required to do is to plan for the future in terms of having residential land capacity available for development. And so if we have a farmer next door to current residential, well, then we've got the horns of a dilemma there, haven't we? If that farmer wants to, if you like, stay there, well, then we've got a disjointed growth within the within that township area, if you like. And so that's the challenge we face as a council. And I guess I'm just trying to make that observation, that the tension that exists between recognising the farmer, you know, and recognising the fact that the farmer has been there and just wants to get on with life and continue to be a farmer, versus the council having to sort of plan for residential growth going forward.
Yeah, we do acknowledge the fact that you've got to have a 5 or 10 year plan up front. We've had some examples where the whole farm has had a blanket rezone on the whole farm. Part of it's been in a floodplain. Impossible at Yanar, which is an example. The whole farm had the blanket put on it with the rural residential and residential, and immediately the potential rate is impacted onto that property. Surely there's got to be another way around that. If the farmer continues to farm, well, surely he's got that right. But I guess the other line to that is keep rating him at its present use, maybe compulsory acquisition if you absolutely need him to move, which is what's happened out here when the Hazelwood Pondage was introduced. That was all compulsory acquisition.
That's right. Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? If not, thank you, Graham.
Thank you, thank you.
Councillors, our third speaker is Mr Ian Lee, and Ian's talking about a partial model of a solar system. Ian, are you there? Would you like to come up? Now, before you start, Ian, Councillor Law has given me 2 pages of notes provided by you. You okay if I circulate that to the councillors? Sure. All right. Councillors, oh, you've all got it. Well, it gets better every moment. Yeah, just like that and it happens. All right, Ian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, councillors, for giving me this opportunity to speak on this proposed project. I did send a preliminary letter to Matthew Rogers on the 16th of April. I presume that you've already read some of that, have you? So basically the dot points that I've got of the proposed solar system model in Maui. It would be a real scale of distances and diameters. It'd be a tourist attraction, and it would also be educational for school children and adults alike. It would be inexpensive to implement and maintain. What it would consist of, in my opinion, is a plinth about the size of this with a bit of a description of the planet and even a little model or hemisphere of the model in actual size compared with the solar system, starting from, as you can see, from the sun, which would be located at Old Gippsland, it would, and be 2 metres in diameter. And so you go out, I have drawn the distances out from Old Gippsland so that you'd become to the Earth at 215 metres out, and it would be 18 millimetres in diameter. I would suggest that you could put on the plaque whimsical comments for entertainment, such as how much a can of soft drink would weigh on a particular planet or sun. Or at the Earth, if you're feeling insignificant. Remember, this is the only place in the universe where there's known to be life. Saturn, etc. It will be really cold out here. And the sun, it's already done 2 orbits of the Milky Way. Things like that, just whimsical things. Basically, that's about it. There is a model of it very similar down on St Kilda beach area, starting from the St Kilda Marina area. And it's interesting to have a look at anyway. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Councillors, any questions for Ian? Councillor Gibson.
Thanks, Ian. Would you mind drawing a verbal picture for me? Okay, so you start from Old Gippsland and So it's on a column, or how
Yeah,
would you do it?
I would presume the sun would be at Old Gippstown and it'd be 2 metres. So I would presume that you'd make this out of, say, 1/4 inch iron wire or steel wire.
And just sit it on the ground, or?
Or you could have that up a little bit so that it couldn't be destroyed by vandalism.
Okay,
And-
because
and-
as they get bigger.
Well, that's the biggest one.
They'll get smaller from now on.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right.
So,
Okay.
and it would be 2 metres in diameter,
Yeah.
and I would presume that it would be made in longitudes and latitudes around it,
Yeah.
welded, and put, say, 6 foot above the ground with
The plinth.
a plinth and a plaque with it to describe it in the manner that I've described. Then as you go out, the planets are much smaller. So they range in diameters from boom, boom, boom,
Yeah. I've got the list
6
here.
millimetres up to 200 or even 400 millimetres for Saturn with its rings.
Yep, no worries.
Does that? And,
Yeah.
and they would be in scale of proportion to the sun and the distances from the sun.
No worries.
Does that clarify anything
It
for you?
does. Thank you very much.
That's all right?
Thanks, councillor Gibson. Councillors, any other questions? Councillor Fancy.
I know it's not to scale, but would you consider something that was embedded in the footpath rather than up on a plinth? I was
Yes.
thinking like something as like a shield in the ground that might be to the diameter.
Yes, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Any other questions, councillors? If not, thanks very much, Anne.
Okay, thank you.
Just for the gallery's benefit, councillors have got copies of all written submissions received, particularly in relation to this meeting. We will redact those submissions before adding them to the minutes. That means we'll cross out people's phone numbers, addresses, that kind of stuff, just to keep the privacy going, but I think there'll be a wider public interest in what submissions have been made. All right, having received submissions, we will move on to the business of the meeting, councillors. I'll just grab my agenda. As I explained earlier, the purpose of this meeting was to hear people's verbal submissions, which will go with the written submissions which have been received. We will consider them, and then a decision on the budget in respect of all matters relating to the budget will be made at the ordinary council meeting on Monday the 3rd of June. So we're at the point, councillors, where I'm looking for a mover for a motion that encapsulates that. And I believe it should be on the screen behind me. Moved, Councillor Gibson.
Second.
Seconded, Councillor White. Do I have any opposition? Pen won't work, bear with me. Okay, no opposition. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Gibson? Councillor White?
Just briefly.
Oh, I thought just briefly, yes.
Yeah, I think, Mr Mayor, it behoves us as a council to acknowledge with appreciation the fact that members of our community have been prepared to come here this evening to make their presentations, their submissions to us. And in addition to that, there's a number of others who have submitted as well responses in relation to the draft budget. And so I think from the council's point of view, we're really keen to engage with our community to make sure that we're listening and that we're taking on board all the thoughts and possibilities and ideas that could be contemplated within the constraints that we operate within financially. So I think that that's my point at this particular stage, Mr Mayor, and that people have been prepared to participate in the process. It is a long and lengthy process we go through as a council, and particularly with the officers and the staff of the organisation who have helped to create the document that we have, which is a draft at the moment. And so I think that we're right on track, and but with the contributions from our community, that adds value to the decisions that we make.
Thank you, Councillor White. Does any other councillor wish to speak? No councillor wishing to speak. I offer you the chance to close. Councillor Gibson? Decline. Having had speakers, councillors, we have to vote, so I'll ask those in favour of the motion to indicate. Councillor White, Councillor McFarlane, Councillor Gibson, Councillor Law, Councillor Harriman. Almost marked Councillor Howe as voting for it then. Councillor O'Kelligan, Councillor Kelly and myself. Carried unanimously, councillors. And that brings us to the end of the meeting. Can I ask members of the gallery to join us for a cup of tea? The meeting is now closed. Thank you. And thank you for those with us on YouTube. I will one day remember that.